Hi, we have our syllabus here in front of us, and I just want to run through it briefly with you just to make sure we highlight some of the key points so that you know how you can succeed and reach your goals through this class. First of all, if you need to get a hold of me, the best way to do it is through remind.com. Remind.com is essentially a way you can just connect your phone to this remind.com, and then you can just send me a text message essentially, and then I'm able to respond to it, and it works great. You don't have to exchange any phone numbers, and you can also even contact other students through remind.com, and it's a safe way to do it because we can always access those messages back and forth. And so I do recommend, if you're trying to contact another student, also to use remind.com. It works well for that. You can also send me an email. That's also another option. Usually I will get back to you within 24 hours. If it takes me longer than that, then I actually would appreciate if you resend the message. Usually it won't take longer than that, but sometimes it can. And the only exception, of course, is on weekends. Then you should expect a response by Monday. Sometimes I will get back quite quickly, maybe within 5 to 10 minutes sometimes. But for sure, within 24 hours, I should be getting back, and let me know if that's not the case on a specific question. Okay, under student expectations, well, first of all, this section above, please read it through. It gives an overview of the class. And then on student expectations, a few things I want to highlight. First of all, communicate with me early, and any questions you have or any concerns you have, don't tell me about them at the end of the semester. Instead, tell me about them immediately when they come up. And if you have something you're struggling with, we can get a lot of resources to you to help you succeed. Secondly, make sure that you're checking Canvas every day. That is your source of truth for the class. So you don't have to worry about what you thought a student said, or you thought the teacher said, or you thought you saw on something. If it's in Canvas, then that will be the way you know what's expected and when it's due. So look at that every day. Next, make sure that you're there in school on the required days. That will be very important because we have lab activities that require collaboration, that require setup, they require materials. And so a lot of those can't be performed outside of school. So if at all possible, always be there on those days. Now, if you are sick and you have a doctor's note, then yes, we totally understand. We don't want you getting everybody else sick. Then don't come on those days. And in that case, I will give you a makeup assignment. Usually the makeup assignments do take a little bit longer than the in-class assignments, and they'll often be more of like a written assignment. But when you have those necessary absences, then it's okay to miss. But if it's at all possible to come, please do. Number 4 here, make sure that you're paying attention to safety in the lab. I'll do my best to guarantee safety, but I can't absolutely ensure it unless students are participating safely with the equipment and following the appropriate policies and procedures for using those. And you'll get a chance to learn about what those are when you do a safety quiz, and you also go through the safety contract that you'll be looking at today. Okay, now this is probably one of the most important things when it comes to how we treat our classmates. We want you to treat each of our classmates with respect and be welcoming toward them. This is part of the community that we're in here. We want to make sure that everybody feels welcome, but it's also just part of working in science. If you work in science, you'll collaborate with people all over the world. They'll be from different religious backgrounds. They'll have different practices. They'll be from different ethnic, and they'll be from different social backgrounds, and all of those things will be different. And learning how to respect and communicate with them effectively will be part of being a good scientist and also just a good citizen. If you ever feel like you're not treated well or respected, if you ever feel harassed or bullied, come and talk to me immediately, and we'll make sure that we find a resolution very quickly. On the teacher expectations, please read those through, but the thing I really want to highlight is that I value your feedback. I want to make this class work for your learning style. I want to make this class work for your interests. And so please do come to me. I mean, if you're just going to come and complain, it might not get very far. But if you're going to come and say, hey, you know what, here's an idea for a lab that we could do, I'm going to make every effort to incorporate that, because especially if we have time to do it, because I love to engage, in the things that you're interested in. I want you to see how this class can help you get to your goals. Even if your goals don't seem to have anything to do with science, I want you to see where there can be some great alignment. Okay, the required materials for class. So first of all, I want you to bring a 3-ring binder, and the 3-ring binder should have lined paper in it. And if you can, get some graph paper, but graph paper is not required. Always have a pen or a pencil. And then I recommend, it's not an absolute requirement, but I do recommend that you look at getting a scientific calculator. I have a recommendation here. It's the TI-30X2S. The reason I recommend this one is because it seems to be the cheapest option for a good calculator that does everything you need it to do. And right now, when I looked at it today, it was $9 on Amazon, so hopefully it stays that way. It's a pretty good price. But if you already have another calculator, just bring that. But if you haven't gotten a calculator, consider getting a calculator like this one that pretty much covers all of your needs that you'd have both in algebra or in science. Right. And then another thing that you want to have access to is a scanner. So if you're going to be at school most of the days, then you can just use the scanner in the office, and that will work completely fine. If you are not here at school or you just want the convenience of doing it another way, I also would recommend scanner apps. So don't just take a photo of it. That doesn't work. I can tell you there's many problems that come up with that, but you get these scanner apps that you'll take a photo of your document with, and it'll convert it into a PDF, and it'll also straighten it out and everything, so it works really nicely. And there's a lot of these apps. You can look them up in the App Store or the Google Play Store, or I recommend Cam Scanner is probably the best one I recommend that I've seen students find to be pretty simple to use, and it works really well. Another one that I've used a lot is Scanner Pro that does cost like $5, I think. So, but I think Cam Scanner, I believe, is free, and I believe there's a version both for Android and iPhone. Now, here's the late work policy. The late work policy is if an assignment is late at all, even if it's an hour late, then the maximum you can earn is 90%. If it is late 1 week, then the maximum you can earn is 80%. If it's late 2 weeks or more, then the max you can earn is 70%. And then assignments turned in throughout the rest of the semester can still be turned in for 70%. Except during the final week of the semester. During the final week, no assignments can be turned in. Okay, and that really is simply because I have to get grades in, and I'm responsible to submit them at a certain time, and so I can't get something 10 minutes before and then incorporate it. We have to go through kind of an organized process with that submitting of grades. Okay, and now when it comes to tests and quizzes retakes, I do permit retakes, but it's only under certain conditions. Okay, so you can retake any quiz or any test as long as you've taken the first version of that test or quiz on the day it is administered or earlier. Okay, so if for any reason you cannot take that quiz or test on the day it's administered, then you will simply take the retake version. You won't take the original version. Okay. Secondly, to take a retake, you have to do the retake within 1 week of the original test. So if you, again, just to review, if you take the original test or quiz on the day it's given, then you have up to 1 week to do a retake, and you can get full credit on the retake. Now, I'm going to just mention to you one thing. You might ask, well, why, if I'm sick or something like that, why can't I just take the original test late? The reason is because we need to be able to talk about that test in class immediately after it's given. We can't wait several days for people who might be absent due to illness. And so you would just simply take the retake. Now, if you do have an excused absence, then I will actually give you a copy of the original test, a blank copy of the original test, so that you can review it, so you can be on the same ground as other students. And but the retake is there. It's not there. You don't want to ever do the retake as just a way of studying for the test. Instead, you want to use this as a safety net in case you have a bad day, which does happen. You'll have that as a safety net where you can do that retake, and you don't have to feel like one bad day has this major impact. Okay, and then a couple of other things I want to highlight. Your work submissions. I do want you to submit everything online in Canvas. I know this will be a pain at first, but once you figure out a system, it'll be a lot easier. And it's especially nice because you'll always have your own copy of that assignment. You don't have to hand that assignment over and then wonder when you're going to get it back. You'll have that for your review, for your quizzes, and for your labs. And then also there's some other big advantages. For example, it's very clear once you've turned it in, you can check Canvas and you can see that it was turned in, and it works a lot better that way. A couple of other things, just your grading policy. Now, look at this carefully. We have this set up for a reason. I'm not saying it's perfect by any means, but I think it's a good way to support your learning. What I have is practice assignments are worth 10% of the grade. These are kind of your daily assignments that you get, and their primary purpose is to help you to learn the information. And usually I will grade practice assignments based on completion. If I see somebody who is making answers up and clearly not making an effort, then you can lose a lot of points on them. But usually, if I see that you've put in genuine effort and you've completed most of the work, then you might simply get full credit. Then when it comes to labs, projects, and discussions, now this is an important part of science, this is kind of the doing of science. And so this part is worth a lot more of the grade. The thing I want you to take away here is sometimes when kids do labs, I find that they just sort of try to hurry through and get it done and toss it in, almost like just being there is all that matters. But I want you to know that the labs are graded carefully to ensure that you are using the right formats, that you're doing them neatly, that you're analyzing things well. And so take the time on those labs to do a thorough job and to properly follow the scientific method, and then you'll perform well. When it comes to quizzes, they're worth 5%. So that's not a lot, of course, but it is the purpose of the quizzes is to help you prepare for tests and understand what type of information you need to know to prepare effectively for tests. The tests are worth about 30% of the grade, and then the final is worth 15% of the grade. So if you have any questions about this, please come in and I'll be happy to discuss it with you. And actually I have two more things I want to go over. The cell phone policy. Now you have a lot of links in here to different studies that talk about how phones can affect our learning. Okay, so it's really important that you create an environment where you can focus effectively. We want to do that in the classroom. And so we have a policy of no cell phones. I shouldn't see any cell phones in class. And if there is some need to use the cell phone that is supportive of your learning process, then raise your hand, and sometimes on a temporary basis, I may let you use it. And then sometimes as the class as a whole, I'll permit them to use a phone, for example, if we need to take a photograph in a lab or whatever else that might be. Then there are cases where we would use our phones. But in general, assume that phones should not be out. There will be times for example, during tutorials when I do permit you to listen to music, but even in those cases, you need to get the phone set on a playlist in the first 2 minutes of class, and then it should be put away, like in a backpack or in a pocket, and it shouldn't be viewable during class, because having that screen there, either for you or for the person next to you, with alerts coming up, is going to interrupt your learning process, and it's going to make it much more difficult to retain and to master concepts. Finally, when it comes to the honor code, it's really important that any work you turn in is your own work. Okay, if I ever see a case where somebody has simply turned in somebody else's work, for example, I don't want to give you ideas necessarily, but it's not hard to figure these ideas out. If you scan somebody else's work and just put your name over it, that can result in major penalties. Okay, so you need to ensure that whatever you submit is your own work. It's a lot better to simply be honest and show that you don't know something rather than copying somebody else's work, or even just show that you weren't able to finish it. You're going to be a lot better off. Now, is it possible that I might miss something that you've copied? Absolutely, that's going to happen sometimes. But you're playing a very risky game if you choose to copy off of something or submit something that isn't your own work. Because if I do find something that is clearly copied or clearly from the internet, then what will happen is I'll go back through and look at old assignments to see if this is a pattern. Okay, and this can result in some major penalties, even including suspensions or referrals to the office or Saturday school. And it can also result in a 0 on any assignments that are found to be plagiarized. Even if you've already gotten a grade on assignment, if we later go back and look at it and we notice now that it was plagiarized, then that can be turned into a 0. So the upshot is, make sure that when you submit work, make sure that it's your own work. It's okay to collaborate on certain assignments. In fact, any of the practice assignments, collaboration is fine to do. But make sure that when you write your answers that you're writing them in your own words and you're not simply copying what somebody else has done. All right, well, hopefully that helps to clarify some of the policies. Please go through the entire syllabus, and then to complete the assignment, you need to make sure that you put in you sign this, and also that your parent signs it. And any questions that you have, please come talk to me. And I look forward to working with you on this. Thank you.